Hello students, welcome to a new chapter in bio, that is the respiratory system. In the last lecture, we have already completed the respiratory system, but that chapter was related to the plants. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss regarding the human part. Okay, so this respiratory system is regarding the humans part. So let's start with the chapter. So first of all, we will understand what do you mean by a word respiration. So respiration is nothing but this is a chemical process of releasing energy by breakdowning of glucose for carrying out the life processes. See, chemical process of releasing energy. So respiration is nothing but a chemical process. Chemical means what? See, when we eat food, we get energy. We get energy in the form of a glucose. Okay, and in the presence of oxygen, all this gets break down, it forms CO2, H2O, and it releases energy in the form of ATP. And this ATP is highly responsible. ATP means adenosine triphosphate. This is nothing but an energy molecule which get released by breaking down of the glucose. Okay, and due to this ATP only we get energy, and we can do our daily life routine works. Okay, carrying out life processes like growth. Okay, like growth, like playing, sitting, reading, sleeping, each and every activity comes in this life processes. So there are 5 important points we have to remember about the chemical reactions. See, there is a cellular respiration or a tissue respiration which is going to occur, okay, which we are going to study in detail. There is a breakdown of the glucose. Right now we have studied regarding the breakdown of the glucose, as I made up the reaction regarding that part, okay, how the glucose was there, it got oxidized and releases CO2, H2O and energy. That energy was nothing but the ATP. All the chemical reactions was taking in the presence of an enzymes, and we know what are the enzymes. Enzymes are nothing but the biological catalyst which helps to speed up the reaction. And we have already studied about the liberation of energy right now in the form of ATP, and that ATP helps us to carry out our life processes. Okay, and this happens same in plants as well as in animals. Okay, so we will understand by studying so many of the things. See, in the last part we are going to discuss cellular or the tissue respiration in detail. As of now I haven't completed this part. Okay, to just make it a point. So why we need energy? So there are different functions to be performed by the body. So first, synthesis of proteins from the amino acids. What are the proteins? Proteins are nothing but the building blocks of the body, and these building blocks means they are in a complete chain. Suppose this is a molecule of a protein, okay, which is in a chain, and this smallest form, okay, this one molecule is nothing but the amino acids. This one molecule is nothing but the amino acids. So single molecule is called as the amino acids, and single molecules make up a big chain in the form of a protein. This is nothing but the whole protein, and the smallest part of this protein is called as the amino acid. We have already covered this part in the digestive system. Production of enzymes. See, enzymes. What is the function of the main enzymes? Enzymes in our body helps to break down the different types of the nutrients, like carbohydrates gets break down, okay, like proteins get break down, each and everything fats get break down. Okay, so this is done in the presence of an enzymes which helps to provide us the glucose in a sufficient amount of a quantity. Contraction of muscles for the movements. See, we know that part very well. Muscles can perform contraction and relaxation, both function. Okay, contraction and relaxation function, and due to this contraction and relaxations we can easily see our muscles are very flexible in nature. Why? Because they perform of the functions of the contraction and relaxation, and due to this it becomes very easy for the muscles for carrying out the movement part. Okay, this energy also helps in keep the body warm. Okay, we have already studied about the warm blooded animal. warm blooded animal. Who are the warm blooded animals? Like we humans, okay, birds, we monkeys, etc., etc. We all are mammals, okay. We are warm blooded. What does warm blooded means? Warm blooded means we can't fluctuate our body temperature. Our body temperature remains constant throughout the life process, okay. Like around, for humans it is around 37 degrees Celsius, which is a quite a normal temperature, okay. So we are warm blooded. If there is too much of hot or cold outside, then too our body temperature is going to remain same only at, that is 37 degrees Celsius. So we need energy. So that's why in winter we feel very cold, okay. So what we do in order to release energy, okay, in order to produce heat, we rub our hands, okay, we rub our hands, or clattering of the teeth. These two are the examples or the signs you can talk about, which helps to show that our body is releasing energy. We have already completed about this part, okay, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. What do you mean by anaerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration means in the presence of oxygen, and this is nothing but the absence of oxygen, okay. Anaerobic means insufficient amount of oxygen, not absence, to be more perfect regarding that part. This would be very insufficient amount of oxygen. Insufficient means what? There is a little amount of oxygen which is present to carry out the life process, okay. In humans both this respiration occurs, like how we are going to see this part. See, when we eat food, so we get energy, right? We get energy and we store that energy in the form of a glucose that we get from our food. Our food get oxidized and releases this carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. What is this ATP? This ATP is the energy molecule. Where does this series of respiration occurs? This occurs in the mitochondria region, okay. Mitochondria is responsible for breaking down of the glucose completely, okay, glucose completely, and this reaction occurs in the mitochondria, where it releases around 36 ATP and 2 ATP in the cytoplasm region. So together they constitutes 38 ATP. This was related to aerobic. Now the same reactions we are going to understand in animals. See, in animals or in the humans, it is one and the same only. Anaerobic respiration. See, this is glucose, but we can't see oxygen. See, here it was an oxygen, but here the oxygen was not there. So that is why the glucose in the insufficient amount of oxygen got broken down into an lactic acid. Now what is this? This lactic acid and 2 ATP plus heat. Okay, why this 2 ATP only? See, for a complete production, see, for a complete breakdown of glucose, it has to be 38 ATP. But this 2 ATP shows that there is an incomplete breakdown of a glucose. Okay, this is an indication. And what is in lactic acid? See, in humans, okay, or in an animals, whenever, see, suppose an athlete, okay, he is working very hard, so he is losing up his energy, okay, he is oxidizing his glucose, but after a particular period of a time, that athlete is going to stop and going to rest. Why he is going to rest? Because see, the energy in his body got utilized by doing so much hard work, but now in order to balance up or cover up that sufficient amount of energy, he rests so that he can carry out his different processes like digestion, okay, like digestion, relaxing his brain, all of the system in his body is going to work now properly. What is in lactic acid? See, we have often seen of the signs of the yawning. What does yawning says? See, when there is an insufficient amount of oxygen in our body, so what we does, our eyes become red, okay, and we yawn. Why we yawn? So that the oxygen which is present in the atmosphere goes into our mouth, and from there we can collect a lot amount of oxygen and we can maintain that balance. Okay, this lactic this collection, this accumulation of this lactic acid gives the feeling of fatigue. What do you mean by fatigue? Fatigue means the tiredness. This condition is also called as the oxygen depth. Oxygen depth means what? Deficiency of an oxygen. Okay, insufficient amount of oxygen, this is present in the muscles, and due to this your muscles get tired. So that is why prolonged exercise or fast running, this all needs a lot of diet, okay, in order to survive or in order to carry out this many of this physical exercise. See, in plants or fungi is nothing but the decomposers. When this glucose break down, it gets converted into ethanol and CO2. This ethanol is nothing but the ethyl alcohol. This is C2H5OH, and this helps to release the alcoholic part. Okay, this has been carried out by the different industries in order to collect the alcohol, like to form the wines and all. There are different parts of the respirations we are going to see: breathing, gaseous transport, tissue respiration, and cellular respiration. See, breathing means what? Breathing and respirations, we have already heard about this two different types of a word. See, breathing is nothing but this is a physical process, and respiration is nothing but a chemical process. What is the difference between a respiration and a breathing? See, breathing, first I am going to discuss the points regarding the breathing. As I already said, breathing is a physical process. And what does breathing says? Take in and exhale out of oxygen. Sorry, take in of oxygen and exhaling out of CO2 is nothing but the breathing. But respiration is in chemical process. Why? Because this respiration is not only taking in of oxygen and releasing out of carbon dioxide, but this shows some of the chemical reaction, because all of the respiration reactions takes place in the presence of an enzymes. When the glucose in our body gets break down, okay, that smaller glucose comes in contact with that cells and get oxidized, okay, and releases the energy in the form of ATP. So that is why respiration is a wider term than the breathing. Breathing, see, in short, breathing includes respiration. Breathing is included, okay, breathing is included inside this respiration, but respiration is not included inside this breathing, okay. Breathing is a wider concept like this. This is nothing but the respiration, and this small one is the breathing part. So this breathing includes the respiration, but respiration is not included inside this breathing, because respiration is considered to be the wider term and breathing is considered to be the smaller term. Gaseous transport now. See, we know all that oxygen, we have already heard about the word called circulatory system. What does the circulatory system does? See, first I am going to explain a basic one. There are two veins, two blood vessels. Actually there are three, but right now we are going to discuss regarding the arteries and veins, not the capillaries. Arteries carry oxygenated blood and this carry deoxygenated blood, and this deoxygenated blood means nothing but the carbon dioxide. So we have heard about this word. Arteries carry oxygenated blood and veins carry carbon dioxide related blood, which is also called as the deoxygenated blood. So what happens exactly? See, when we inhale oxygen, so there is a compound, there is a main constituent of the blood, that is the hemoglobin, Hb, okay. But in exam you don't have to write Hb, you have to be very specific regarding the spelling only. Hemoglobin, this form up a compound called oxyhemoglobin. Okay, oxyhemoglobin. This oxyhemoglobin is transported through the arteries to each and every part of the body. When the presence of an oxygen get decreases, so all this compound carries from the veins. What is the function of the veins? The function of the vein is to carry the deoxygenated part of the blood towards the heart. Okay, so what does this vein does? This veins, which is rich in carbon dioxide related blood, carries the blood into two-way towards the heart in the form of the bicarbonates, which is there inside the plasma. What is in plasma? Plasma is nothing but the liquid part of the blood. Okay, bicarbonates. And second, in the forms of the carbaminohemoglobin. What is carbaminohemoglobin? See, like I said, oxygen presence of hemoglobin conducts oxyhemoglobin. Now this carbon dioxide in the presence of hemoglobin is called carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, this get mixed and get transported towards the heart, and then hearts pump it through the lungs, and then from the lungs again to the heart, and then it get transported to each and every part of the body. Now third part, tissue respiration. Tissue respirations we are going to in the form of the diagram we are going to do. First I will discuss regarding this part, cellular transpiration. See, all the breaking down of the glucose and releasing energy in the form of ATP, that is how much ATP? 38 ATP has been done inside the cell. Okay, we know a cell organelle called cytoplasm. We know one more, that is the mitochondria. In cytoplasm region, these both are nothing but the organelle of the cells. This cytoplasm helps to release 2 ATP. For carrying out a proper life process, how many ATP we need? We need 38 ATP. Okay, so how much ATPs are still left to get released? 36. So this together, 2 ATP and 36 ATP together forms 38 ATP. So this all process happens inside the cell. Okay, because cytoplasm and mitochondria are nothing but the cell organelle. Okay, so that is why this is also called as the cellular respiration. All these complex reactions happen inside the cell. Now we are going to discuss regarding the tissue respiration, but as I said, we are going to refer to this diagram for the tissue respiration part. See, we have already heard about this word in the 8th standard also. Tissue respiration is also called as the tissue fluid. Okay, tissue fluid or the interstitial fluid. Now what exactly happens? See, the walls of the capillaries. We know what is a capillary. Capillary is nothing but a blood vessels. We have three different types of blood vessels, that is arteries, veins and capillaries. So this is a capillary, and the wall, see, this is nothing but the wall. Wall means the outer surface. The wall of the capillaries are very thin enough, and these capillaries have 3 different types of cells inside the body, that is RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Right now we are not discussing regarding the platelets, we are just going to discuss regarding the WBCs. See, so this red indicates your RBCs, and this yellowish, okay, or a whitish color indicates your WBCs. So as we can see, these arrows, they are moving towards the upper hand side. So what does this shows? That this RBCs and WBCs have been carried out through by the capillaries. Okay, so what happens exactly? The WBCs, okay, especially only the WBCs, only the WBCs get squeezed out of this blood capillaries. What do you mean by the word squeeze out? Squeeze out means to move out. Here we can see this part. What is this? This is nothing but a WBC. What is this? This is nothing but a WBC. This WBCs get squeezed out of the capillaries, okay, and the oxygen, okay, the oxygen has been supported, okay, by these capillaries. We can see these arrows. I'm going to darken it up for you. This oxygen get transported towards this tissue, and this is also called as the tissue fluid, because there is a presence of the fluid, okay, a liquid medium outside these capillaries. Now this oxygen has been carried out by this WBCs. Now this is also moving upwards, okay, this is also moving upwards. But what exactly happens when they carry out the oxygen? So they utilize this oxygen for their working part, because the working of the WBCs is to fight against any of the foreign bodies, okay, because they helps in the defense system. So their oxygen get utilized, and after some time the carbon dioxide, the level of the carbon dioxide inside their cell increases. So what they does, they releases CO2. See this part, see this cell, they are releasing CO2, okay. First they were picking oxygen, here they were picking oxygen, and now as they were moving ahead, they started to release carbon dioxide, and this carbon dioxide then got accumulated in these blood vessels, and the name of the blood vessel is vein, because I already mentioned, okay, vein carry the deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood means the presence of carbon dioxide, and this moves upward toward the heart then. So this was nothing but the tissue respiration part. See, we have already discussed where does the respiration occurs in a cell, because we have studied about the cellular respiration also. So basically we are going to discuss regarding the two different types of places, that is cytoplasm, and the other one is the mitochondria. How many ATP does it release? 2. Total we need 38 to get released. From where we are going to get this 36? We are going to get it from the mitochondria, okay. Both of this occurs in a cell, so that is why they are called as the cellular respiration. But what exactly happens? See, in the first step, glucose, the presence of an oxygen we are going to take, because we are going to take in the form of the aerobic respiration. So in the first step, what is going to happen? This gets converted into H2O, ATP and all, and CO2. So in the first step, there was a breaking down of the glucose. And where does this breaking down of the glucose was happening? In the cytoplasmic region, okay, in the cytoplasmic region. So this breaking down of glucose is also called as the word glycolysis. The word glyco means glucose and lysis means to get breakdown. We have already heard about the word called the electrolysis. Electro means electricity and lysis means breakdown. So here glycolysis means the breaking down of the glucose was happening inside this cytoplasm. And now to get more 36 ATPs, it went into the mitochondria. Now we are in the second organelle of the cell, that is the mitochondria. Here one scientist called Crab, okay, he founded that in order to carry out normal life processes, we need 38 ATP. See, 2 of the ATP we have already studied, that we get it from the cytoplasm. But where this 36 ATP are going to get? So this 36 ATP we are going to get inside this mitochondria region, okay. When there is a complete breakdown of an glucose, it releases the energy in the form of ATP, and this 36 ATP get released. So in the Krebs cycle, we need very much energy is produced, whereas in the cytoplasmic region, very little amount of energy get released. Now we are going to discuss regarding the different type of respiratory organs. Okay, so see how first it's better we make a shortcut for an odd man out or logical sequences. See, this is nose, pharynx, larynx, NPL, and this is TBL, trachea, bronchi, and lungs. Okay, nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs. So NPL, TBL. These are nothing but the shortcuts to understand. So first we are going to discuss regarding the nose part. Nose part. So we have the nose holes or the nose openings, which are called as the nostrils. So we have two nostrils. Inside the nose there are the hairs. Okay, what is the function of these hairs? Okay, nose hairs. See, whenever we know that part very well, that the bacterias, okay, or the small microorganism, it is present in the atmosphere, it is present in the food, air, water, each and everywhere, right? So there would be a lot of bacteria. So whenever we inhale up the air, so at the same particular period of a time, that bacteria also moves inside the body, okay, through the nose. So it can cause damage to our body. So that is why there were some of the hairs. What is the function of the hairs? This function of the hairs was, it was working like a broom. What is the function of a broom? See, whenever any of the dust particles get accumulated inside the house, so due to this broom we can easily clean up the floor and can throw out the waste. So same like that, the dust particles which enters into our nose get trapped by this hairs, nose hairs, and due to this only the fresh airs get inhaled inside our nose. So there are basically three functions which have been performed by this nose. First, it helps the air to get moistened up, okay, because a warm air get released, right? It warms the air as it passes over. So basically whenever we take in air, it's cool, but when we release it warms, okay. And the third and the most important part, its mucus secretion entraps harmful particle. What is this mucus secretion? It is nothing but like a, okay, see, whenever we get a cough, so that is nothing but a mucus only. So mucus is a very sticky substances which helps to entraps the harmful particles, like any of the dust particles. When it gets moved, so that mucus helps to get trap this dust particles. And additionally, this nose helps in the smelling sensation also, because they highly consist of the sensory cells. Then we are going to come towards the pharynx part. Where is this pharynx situated? Pharynx is situated at the back of the mouth. See, we know that part very well. Pharynx. We can breathe through nose also, and we can breathe through mouth also, but usually we prefer to breathe through nose only. We don't prefer to breathe through our mouth, because the harmful bacteria which is present in the atmosphere can easily enter into your mouth and can easily go inside your body. Okay, so it is very dangerous, because it can make you cause ill. Okay, so it is very dangerous. But what is this pharynx? Pharynx is nothing but this is a common location of a mouth and a nose. The common location of nose and mouth is called the pharynx part. Okay, so it is a common passage for air and food to pass in. Okay, because through mouth we eat food and through nose we breathe in. So that is why it is located out here. Okay, so this is nothing but a common junction of a nose and a mouth. Now through the larynx. Larynx is also called as the Adam's apple, or it is also called as the voice box, and this word is very popular, voice box, because we know that part, okay, through this voice box only we can talk. See what exactly happened. It works like a flap. suppose I am making up a flap up here and a flap here. So what is going to happen? See, when we are going to talk, so there is a presence of an air and these flaps get vibrate. Okay, this flap, see, these flaps get vibrate, and due to this we can produce our sound. Then we have a trachea. Trachea is also called as the windpipe. Windpipe. And this is made up of a C-shaped rings. C-shaped rings, okay, which is completely made up of this cartilage part, which is completely made up of this cartilage. And due to this cartilage, it helps to provide the flexibility also, because see, this cartilage helps to provide the flexibility and helps the trachea to distend permanently. Means what? Suppose this is a trachea, which is a cartilaginous C part like this, and this is a normal trachea which is without the cartilage. Due to this cartilage which is present on the trachea, the walls of this trachea does not get collapsed. But here you can understand like this, the walls can get easily collapsed with each other and they can come together, and due to this it can be a very dangerous part because it can cause a death. But due to this cartilage only, the walls of the trachea does not comes closer to each other and remains in the same position. So that is why it is made up of a cartilage, so that the walls does not comes together. Then there is a condition called then there is a next part of the respiratory part is the bronchi. Okay, see, what was a trachea? Cartilaginous C-shaped ring, okay, which is also called as the windpipe. Now we are going to enter into a new condition. This chew, okay, this chew stem like or a tube like things are called nothing but the bronchi. Okay, why bronchi? Because the word bronchi is nothing but the plural form. Bronchi. In singular you call also called as the bronchus. Now it is going to divide more like a branch, like this, and again like this. So it is going to divide more further. So it would lead into secondary, and then it is going to release into a tertiary. And the smaller part, ekdam smaller part of the bronchi is called the bronchioles. Okay, this bronchioles has some of the air sac like structure. See, this is the bronchi part, and this is completely filled with some of the air sac part, which is very, very, very important. This is the alveoli. Okay, what is an alveoli? This is an air sac of structure which is completely made up of a blood vessels. Okay, so this alveoli is completely made up of a blood vessels. Because of this alveoli, whenever we breathe in or breathe out, this is the surface where the exchange of the gases takes place. So that is why alveoli is very important, and these are nothing but the tiny air sacs, okay, which is surrounded by the blood capillaries in order for the transformation of the gaseous part. And then there is called the lungs, and we know all that. Okay, what are the lungs part? Lungs are nothing but the spongy and the elastic organs. Okay, there are two lungs. The left lung, okay, has the two lobes, and the righter part has the three lobes like this, and here it has only two. 1, 2. This is nothing but the left lobe, and here we can see 1, 2, 3, and the right one has the three lobes, and the left lung is slightly smaller. Okay, the left side of the lung is slightly smaller. This part is the left part is slightly smaller because it has to accommodate the heart in between, because heart is going to come out here, right? So that is why the size of the left lung is quite smaller, so that it can accommodate the heart in between. See, so as we know, okay, basically lungs have been protected by the two membranes, that is the outer one and the inner one. The like this. Okay, the outer one and the inner one. The inner one is called as the inner one is called as the visceral, and the inner one like this, the inner one, and this outer one is called the parietal. The outer one is called the parietal and the inner one is called the visceral, and between these two there is the fluid that is present, that is called the pleural fluid. What is the function of this pleural fluid? It helps to provide the lubrication. Okay, so whenever we inhale or exhale the air, so because of this fluid only, the outer and the inner membrane does not comes in close to each other. Okay, now this is nothing but a basic structure we should understand. There is a this is the basic structure, that is the nasal cavity, the nostril, this is the pharynx, see here, this is the common opening, see this was a nose part and this was the mouth part, and this mouth and nose leads to a common opening out here which is called the pharynx. This larynx, this trachea, see this cartilaginous part, then this lungs, the right bronchus and the left one. This is the left lung, which is slightly smaller because it has to accommodate the heart also. And this is a diaphragm. What is a diaphragm? Diaphragm is in membrane which is located below this lung part, and we can see this part. See this yellow structure here. There are two different yellow structure. We can see this part. Okay, one is the visceral, which is the innermost, and the outer one is called the parietal, and between this we can see this, there is a fluid which helps in the lubrication so that the lungs does not get collapses. Okay, so thank you students. In this lecture we have completed up to the different respiratory organs of the humans. Okay, in the next lecture we will start and complete up the part. Thank you students.